If you're thinking about moving to the Portland metro area, you wouldn't be surprised to learn that a lot of people aren't necessarily moving to downtown Portland. They're moving to the surrounding suburbs, and in this video, we're gonna talk about the top suburbs in the Portland metro area. All that starts now.
Seth Marchant and Paul Clem here with the Home Team Brokers. Welcome back to the channel Living in Oregon, or if you are new to this channel, Living in Oregon, and you'd like to know more about what it's like to live here, make sure and hit the subscribe button and tap the bell. That way you'll be notified every time we drop a new video, which is twice a week. And if you're somebody that's thinking about moving here, as licensed real estate brokers in the state of Oregon, as much as we love making these videos, we'd really love to help you move here. So if you're thinking about taking the next steps, you can call, text, email, or you can click the link below in the description if you want to schedule a Zoom call with us. All right, let's get into our list of top suburbs in the Portland metropolitan area. And one little caveat with this list, this is subjective. You know, this is Paul and I's list, and all these towns are going to be a little bit different. One's maybe not necessarily better than another, but one might be better than another for you. So we're going to kind of break down some of the differences in these towns on our list. And the first one that we have on our list is Milwaukie. Milwaukie, Oregon, spelled with an I-E, not E-E. In Clackamas County, is just south of Portland proper. So it's maybe just about 10 minutes from a lot of places in Milwaukee to get to downtown Portland. That's one of the things that makes it so popular, is its close proximity to Portland. Actually, again, you're in Clackamas County, not Multnomah, so things are a little bit different in Milwaukee, but you still get all the benefits of being really close to Portland, whether you want to, whether you're working in Portland or you just want to be close to the nightlife, the great restaurants, being close to the Motor Center where the Portland Trailblazers play, things like that. Great proximity, overall pretty low crime, great little town. It's got a good downtown. It's pretty quiet downtown. It's also right on the river too. Yeah. So if you're a boat person, Milwaukie is a great place for you to be. Quite a few homes in Milwaukie also that are on the river. So if you actually want to live on the river, you can do that in Milwaukie. And so Milwaukee's going to start our list off for, I think we have 11 on our list of top suburbs in the Portland metro area.
That's right, we do. So buckle up.
All right, what's next?
All right, next on the list we have Tigard. So we're gonna get over to the west side of Portland. Milwaukie is just on the east side of the river. Tigard is on the west side. I've actually thought often that Milwaukie and Tigard are pretty similar. They're pretty similar in size. They're pretty similar in terms of proximity to downtown Portland. Milwaukee's just gonna be south of southeast Portland. Tigard's gonna be south of southwest Portland. So in Tigard, you do get a lot of similarities with southwest Portland and neighboring Beaverton to the north. You have Highway 99 that runs right through the middle, so that's probably, you know, the biggest like distinguishing factor with Tigard is Highway 99 is kind of this anchor point that runs from the northeast tip to the southwest tip of Tigard. And you have neighborhoods north of the highway, south of the highway, and a lot of consistency. Tigard being so close to Portland proper, to Portland city limits, you're going to get a lot of development, especially on the north side of Tigard, that is going to be a little bit older. So you can get some 100-year-old homes. This is an area that had farms and orchards, and so you know you do get some old historical homes. But mostly it's going to be a lot of mid-century, and then the further you go south and southwest, you get into some newer construction, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and new construction, in particular around an area called Bull Mountain. But Tigard is really kind of a run-of-the-mill suburb in a lot of ways. There is a lot of different characteristics, a lot of different makeups that you get depending on what neighborhood you're in, older neighborhood, newer neighborhood. But you have walking trails, you have the Fano Creek Trail, which is really popular, biking, you know, going for a walk, all that stuff. A lot of great parks, in particular Cook Park, which is on the Tualatin River. So a lot of people go down there and paddleboard, kayak. One high school, Tigard High School, and you know all the schools feed into that. Tigard and Tualatin share a school district, so it's a pretty small school district outside of Portland Public Schools. I think a lot of people really like Tigard. It's a little bit more affordable than some areas in Beaverton and in Portland, but it's close in the Portland metro area. So overall, pretty quiet, laid back for the most part. Not a ton to do aside from just get outside and live that suburban life.
All right, next on our list is going to be Oregon City, end of the Oregon Trail. And we're gonna head back over to the east side of the river. So Oregon City is kind of southeast of Portland. You're looking at maybe as close as maybe low 20s, 22, 23 minutes to get to Portland. Some places in Oregon City, some places could be as much as 40, 45 minutes. If you're looking at Oregon City on a map, there's one zip code in Oregon City, it's 97045. If you look at Oregon City, if you just Google search Oregon City on a map, it's gonna show you the city lines, but if you Google search the zip code 97045, you'll see that those lines go up pretty far, and geographically, Oregon City is a pretty big area. It's also probably the most rural area of any suburb that's on our list here. So if you're looking for something that's maybe a little bit more rural, but still is not too far away from Portland, that you wouldn't work there or go there for food and entertainment or things like that, Oregon City might be a good fit for you. And also with that, you do get some properties that have larger lots. If you don't want a smaller lot, if you want a bigger backyard, and we're talking like a quarter acre, a half acre, a lot of acreage too. A lot of properties that are on 1 to 5 acres. So if you're looking for some acreage, Oregon City is also a great place for you. They do also have a great downtown as well. Typically pretty bustling and busy, newer restaurants down there. So a lot of people are driven to the downtown of Oregon City. It does have probably one of the better downtowns. Not every suburb in the Portland metropolitan area actually has, a dedicated specific downtown or an old town. Oregon City is probably one of the better ones, again, being the end of the Oregon Trail. And Oregon City is also on the river too. You're not going to find any homes that are right on the river. You do have some homes that are kind of set back on a cliff that have water views, and you do have water access. But other than that, Oregon City, all in all, great high school too. They actually have a new high school.
Go Pios.
Pioneers, right? The Oregon City Pioneers. So all in all, a good town for somebody that's maybe looking for something that's maybe a slightly larger lot, or maybe if you just want something that has a little bit more of a rural feel to it.
Yeah. So next we're going to talk about Hillsboro, again hopping back over to the west side of the river. And Hillsboro,
far west.
Is as far west as you can get in the Portland metro area. There's Highway 26 that runs from Hillsboro, it runs all the way out to the coast, but in the metro area, Highway 26 runs east-west. You can get to downtown Portland and then out into like Gresham and areas like that. So Hillsboro is probably going to be an area that if you're relocating from out of state, moving to Hillsboro, you're probably going to be working in Hillsboro as well, maybe Beaverton, but this is an area that is considered to be the Silicon Forest. Hillsboro is one of the larger cities in the Portland metro area. I think it's about 110,000 people, and it's pretty big as well. I think it's well over 20 square miles. I think it's actually about 25 square miles. So you have a lot of different neighborhoods. The further east you are in Hillsboro, you're bordering Beaverton. You get some older neighborhoods in there, a lot of mid-century and things like that. But the further you go west and south in particular, there's a ton of new construction, a ton of new development in the last 15, 20 years. And probably some of the highest volume of new construction right now is going on in Hillsboro in this area called Reed's Crossing. So on the west side and south side of Hillsboro, you're right up against the urban growth boundary. This is where you're going to get new construction in the Portland metro area. Portland has a really strict urban growth boundary that only expands, I think every 11 years or 10 years, but it's evaluated every 5 or 6 years. So, it's not something they're doing very often. But in Hillsboro, again, this has expanded. I think they're building, thousands of homes. I think it's like 5,000 or 6,000 homes that they're building in this Reed's Crossing area. But you have a lot of other really nice, newer construction or newly developed areas in Hillsboro. A lot of really great jobs, a ton of tech companies. So again, Silicon Forest, Intel is the biggest one. There's 4 different campuses that Intel has in this area, but you also have companies like Salesforce and Acumed and a ton of different hardware, software, tech companies. And Hillsboro overall, it's very suburban. It's really flat, so it's in the Tualatin Valley. So a lot of the Portland metro area is going to have a lot of different elevation changes, hills and things like that.
Yeah.
Hillsboro is going to be more flat, more kind of
being called Hillsboro.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a little more sprawled, a little more set on a grid. So it has a little bit of a different aesthetic than some suburbs in the Portland metro area. The last thing I'll highlight with Hillsboro is it has this old town, downtown area furthest west, which at one point, was 25 miles or so from downtown Portland. So this was a small town way outside of Portland. They've all converged together, but the old downtown area is really cool. Great little restaurants and shops and things like that. It feels like you're in a little small town, when you're out in downtown Hillsboro.
Yeah, high growth area. Going to be a high growth area for a long time.
Definitely. Yeah, it's going to keep going west.
All right, well, let's go as far east as we can then.
Sure.
To Happy Valley.
Yeah.
So Happy Valley is going to be our easternmost suburb that we have on this list. And sort of similar to Hillsboro, this is an area that's seeing a lot of growth, an area where they're building a lot of new construction. There is one road that kind of takes you through Happy Valley, which is Sunnyside Road, similar to 99 going kind of through the heart of Tigard. Happy Valley has Sunnyside Road, so if you live in that area, you're definitely going to get acquainted with that road. It's kind of the only way in and out, and maybe one of the downsides of Happy Valley does experience a little bit of congestion. But Happy Valley is going to be good for people that are maybe looking for a larger home. A lot of larger homes in Happy Valley, but not as expensive. So it's not going to be as expensive as being on the west side. The proximity for Happy Valley, you're maybe 30 minutes from downtown Portland, 25 minutes from Portland. It's really actually right next to Milwaukie. Happy Valley does extend pretty far out east though, like we're saying. So if you're way out east, it could be like 40 minutes to Portland. So you're going to continue to see the growth too as the years come, kind of like Hillsboro. A lot of new strip malls out there, a lot of commercial space, great shopping. The shopping there is probably as good anywhere on the east side because you have the Clackamas Town Center, you've got Costco, you have a strip mall right across the street from Clackamas Town Center, the Clackamas Promenade. Target's the big store in there that everybody's drawn to, but pretty much any shopping, including a Trader Joe's right next door, pretty much any shopping that you could want is going to be in Happy Valley. One thing about Happy Valley, if you are looking for larger lots like in Oregon City, you're not going to find it so much in Happy Valley. When you're driving up Sunnyside Road and going through Happy Valley, you'll notice, the name as it implies, you're in a valley, so a lot of the houses sit back up on the hills. A lot of these houses sit on sloped lots. But a lot of these houses are big, 4 or 5 bedroom, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 square foot houses. So you get a lot of house, but usually not on a lot of lot, or at least not a lot of usable lot. So good for a family looking for a lot of space. They do have a high school that was built there 20 years ago. The Clackamas High School actually was rebuilt 25 years ago. They just opened a brand new high school a year ago, Adrian C. Nelson High School. So you have a new high school. It's going to service a lot of Happy Valley, mostly for out east for that new growth, and the old Clackamas High School will kind of service the people that are a little bit west of that. But all in all, kind of more a newer, it's kind of like the Hillsboro of the east, a newer, more kind of upcoming area where you're going to have a lot of nice neighborhoods, a lot of parks, a lot of trails, a lot of all that kind of stuff, and then a lot of homes too, a lot of new construction. So you don't have like the inventory problems. It might not be hard for you to find a home there because there's going to be maybe a little bit more inventory, as inventory's been low throughout the country, and that's no different in Portland. Inventory usually isn't quite as low. You're going to find a little bit more of that in Happy Valley.
Next, we're going to talk about Beaverton, which is amongst the most, maybe arguably the most popular suburb to live in Portland. This is back on the west side. Beaverton, on the east side of Beaverton, borders Portland city limits. So a lot of areas that you would live in Portland, you're going to be able to get to downtown Portland and even to the east side of Portland, southeast, northeast, really popular neighborhoods over there in 12, 15, 18, maybe 20 minutes, depending on where you live. With traffic now, that could be 30 plus minutes, but still very close proximity to Portland, but you're out in the suburbs. So it has that good balance, where if you want to be able to get into Portland, but you want to live in a more suburban area, that's a big reason why a lot of people are drawn to Beaverton. Nike World headquarters is there. You do have Hillsboro directly to the west. Again, there's a lot of employers, a lot of you know, the biggest employers in the Portland metro area are in Hillsboro, but also are in Beaverton as well. So people are drawn to Beaverton, again, because of this dynamic. It's close to Portland, it's suburban, but there's great employment opportunities right there in your backyard. Beaverton, again, too, is really big. So it's about 20 square miles as well. It's a little bit smaller than Hillsboro as far as population goes, but Beaverton itself, I think, has 5 high schools, maybe 6 high schools now. There's a ton of different neighborhoods, and a lot of different neighborhoods with really different dynamics. You know, you could be in one neighborhood of Beaverton, and the next neighborhood to the north or to the south, whatever, feels completely different. But I think overall, if you look at Beaverton, the northern section, which a lot of that is unincorporated Washington County, but still Beaverton School District, so by and large considered to be Beaverton. So this is like Cedar Mill and Bethany, north of Highway 26. And then southern Beaverton, the southern section, which is going to be like Progress Ridge, Murray Hill, Neighbors Southwest, this area, if you're looking at it on a map. Both of these areas have really been developed in the last 30 years, so they're a lot newer. There is newer construction. There's more amenities, things that come along with, you know, newer developments, newer areas that I think a lot of people are looking for. Although, like with Happy Valley, the downsides with a lot of that is your lots are going to be a lot smaller. So Beaverton on the north and the south is a lot newer, very desirable, very sought after. And then central Beaverton, the central section of Beaverton, is going to be a little bit older. It's going to be a little bit more mid-century, all the way to 100-year-old homes. And downtown Beaverton, central Beaverton, Vose, and Cedar Hills area feels a little more urban. It's kind of like suburban shopping center, and then also downtown Beaverton feels a little more urban in a way. It almost feels more like a neighborhood in southeast Portland. So you have all these different dynamics working together where Beaverton really offers something for everybody. You have the Max line that runs right through here, so if you want to take public transit, you can easily hop on the train and get downtown, whether for work, whether to get to a Blazer game, Brewers Festival, you know, whatever it may be. But overall, and I think if you look at home costs too, you're going to see more affordable housing than in Portland, more affordable housing than in some other suburbs of the Portland metro area, but still checks a lot of the boxes that areas that are at a little bit of a higher cost, do. So yeah, a lot of people love Beaverton.
All right, next on our list, West Linn. All right, so what do I think about when I think about West Linn? Well, West Linn is on the other side of the river from Oregon City, so it's on the west side. And it also kind of has a little bit more of a rural feel to it. There's a lot of places that you can drive through West Linn where you're going to see some undeveloped land, handful of farms. There's actually almost about half a dozen wineries and some vineyards there. So it's got a little bit more of a rural feel to it, a little bit more of a slower pace feel to it. It's not in a super congested area either, so don't experience a ton of congestion. And one thing that definitely should be noted about West Linn, this is going to be true for a lot of the suburbs on our list, and this is going to vary depending on kind of what metrics you're looking at and how they aggregated data, whatever article you're reading. But last year, West Linn came in at #1 for lowest crime. I think it was #1 the year before as well. Not that there's a huge difference between West Linn and a lot of these other towns on our list, but it should be mentioned that it was #1 in lowest crime in the state. Also, the school, there's one high school there. The school is very good. The rest of the schools, the primary schools and middle schools, are also very good.
A lot of state championships.
Great at sports. They just took state in football. So a lot of the bigger sports that they're really good at. If you have kids that are competitive in sports, then West Linn might be a good place for you. Other than that, as far as what you're looking at for like the town and the homes, not the cheapest place to live, going to be one of the more expensive places to live. You do have a variety of homes. You're going to find in Old Town West Linn, downtown Willamette, you're going to find some homes that are built in kind of the early 1900s, around the time that West Linn was founded. You're going to find a handful of new construction, but a lot of the homes were built kind of like in the early 90s, like the past 20, 30 years or so. And these are a lot of larger homes too. So if you're looking for a 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom, again, not going to be cheap. Not the most inexpensive. I think it's affordable to just about everybody. You might have to concede some things if you want to be in that area, the size of the home or something like that, or the lot size or the age of the home. You might have to go with something a little bit older if you want to fit it into your price range, because it is expensive there. but probably one of my personal favorite suburbs of the Portland metropolitan area. It's got an overall kind of a small town feel to it. It's not that far from Portland, maybe just 20 minutes from Portland, and not super congested, which is kind of nice too. A lot of parts of Portland have been congested over the years. If you look, or has become congested recently, and if you look at a map, West Linn is right off of I-205. A lot of the traffic in Portland coming off of I-5, you know, so kind of the closer to I-5 you are, maybe the more congestion you might experience personally, just where you live, or if you're commuting to work or not. I-205 doesn't tend to get as congested. So I think for that reason too, just kind of like, there's a lot of undeveloped land, like I mentioned, so it kind of has a small town feel to it, kind of, even though it's not that far outside of town.
Next, we're going to talk about Sherwood. So Sherwood is really about as far as you can get from Portland, from downtown Portland, probably on par with like an Oregon City on the east side. Sherwood is as far southwest as you can get in the Portland metro area. And like some areas that are outside the Portland metro area or just on that urban growth boundary, you know, once was a tiny little small town that has kind of grown and grown over the years and converged with, you know, the rest of the surrounding suburbs. So Sherwood has really been developed mostly over the past 20, maybe 30 years. So most of the residential development that you get in Sherwood is new, has kind of that newer, nicer shine to it, you know, nicer, newer developments with great parks, you know, well planned, well laid out, walkways, trails, things like that. And that's really desirable to a lot of people. There was a time where Sherwood was probably a lot more affordable, you know, when it was being developed than other areas in the Portland metro area. But today it's really on par with kind of the averages, or maybe just a tick more expensive, despite being really about as far away as you can get in the Portland metro area. So if you go south on Highway 99 past Tigard, you're going to eventually get into Sherwood. You're about as far west as Hillsboro. Hillsboro is to the north of Sherwood. Separating Hillsboro and Sherwood is rural farmland. So the, you know, the urban growth boundary kind of does this if you're looking at it on a map. And Sherwood itself is surrounded by the urban growth boundary, aside from the northeast section, which is right on Highway 99 there. So there's a lot of rural areas. You can get properties with land, but again, also in some of these newer developments, you're looking at a lot of properties with really small lots. There are some older neighborhoods too in Sherwood where you have some more mid-century, and then downtown Sherwood is called Smocksville, and it's this, you know, cool, quaint little, you know, small town USA downtown area. That's really cool as well. There's been a lot more shopping and things like that that have been developed over recent years, in particular on Highway 99. It has a brand new high school, arguably one of the nicest high schools, or the nicest high school in the Portland metro area, at least aesthetically. So Sherwood has a lot going for it. You're probably, if you're living in Sherwood, you're not going to be getting into Portland very much. You know, you could be getting into Tualatin, into Tigard, you know, maybe north up into Hillsboro, potentially a little bit, but Portland's going to be far less accessible in an area like Sherwood. But I think that's part of what draws certain people to Sherwood as well. So it feels a lot more like a small town than a true suburb, although it has a very suburban feel. Reminds me of West Linn actually a little bit in that way. Yeah,
maybe the most up and coming on our list.
Yeah, Sherwood, Wilsonville, probably. Yeah. All
right, next on our list, Wilsonville. Not too far away.
Yeah. West
side of the river. South, you know, so south of West Linn, maybe 30 minutes or so to get downtown Portland. Kind of like we mentioned, 99 goes right through Tigard. I-5 goes directly through Wilsonville. So you can hop right on the I-5. The traffic is a little bit congested there, but regardless of where you're at, notoriously congested there. But kind of regardless of where you're at in Wilsonville, you're going to be able to hop right on the I-5. Also up and coming, a lot of new construction there. Some of the top probably neighborhoods, like I'm thinking like a Villebois is a really popular neighborhood for people moving from outside of the state, people that already live in the Portland metropolitan area. Great school. They don't really have a downtown, they have a town center area. Shopping there is also very good too. You're probably gonna have just about everything that you need. The shopping there, I'd maybe compare it a little bit to a Happy Valley. They've got a Costco there, they've got a bunch of strip malls. They have pretty much everything that you need. A lot of stuff that's walkable, great parks, Memorial Park, massive park. A lot of these parks too are walkable, so there's a lot of places that you can just walk to food and activities and amenities. So all in all, kind of an up and coming, newer, nice, walkable town that's probably not too far away from Portland if you do work in Portland or still want to have that proximity to still be able to travel to Portland.
Yeah. All right, next we're going to talk about Tualatin. So Tualatin is just north of Wilsonville on I-5. And then the Tualatin city limits are also just north of Sherwood. So it's primarily on the west side of I-5, on the west side of the Willamette River. And Tualatin is an area that I think is a lot like, Sherwood and Wilsonville. Tualatin was a lot like that, say, 25, 30 years ago. A lot of it was developed over the 80s and 90s, and you can still find some new construction there, but the majority of Tualatin city limits are pretty filled in. It's relatively dense, but it's just total suburbia. Everywhere you go in Tualatin are just these suburban developments, aside from the main kind of city center area, which is right off I-5. So you have the Martinazzi Plaza, a couple hotels, a few restaurants, a few bars, but certainly not any kind of like nightlife or vibrant dining scene and things like that. There are a couple good restaurants, but Tualatin, I think, if somebody is looking for the most suburban area that you can think of, Tualatin is definitely going to be on the list for the Portland metro area, for sure. I think one thing about Tualatin, when you look at what you can get for your budget, your dollar is going to go a little bit further typically. So, the median sale price in Tualatin is going to be on par or a little bit less than, say, like Beaverton, for example, which is a little bit closer to Portland, a little bit higher demand. People kind of flock to Beaverton naturally, comes on people's radar a little bit sooner typically if they're relocating to the Portland metro area. But Tualatin itself isn't far from Beaverton. It's bordering Tigard. Tigard's just north of Tualatin. It's right on I-5, so you can get north up into the city if you'd like. It's also just west of Lake Oswego and Wilsonville. So if you go east, you get into Stafford, into West Linn, into Lake Oswego. These are, some of the most desirable, sought after, nicest suburbs in the Portland metro area, with great little areas to hang out. Downtown Lake Oswego, Willamette, and West Linn. Super accessible from Tualatin. So Tualatin, I think, flies under the radar and probably punches above its weight a little bit relative to its reputation. You also have Bridgeport Village, which is this big outdoor shopping center, shopping mall with a little more luxury brands, a little more kind of higher end brands. That's a really popular place to go. That's just on the north side of Tualatin. Great golf courses in the area. Tualatin checks a lot of boxes for people who are looking for the types of things that Tualatin offers.
Yeah, Bridgeport, that mall, which is like the newest mall in Oregon, right in the corner of Tualatin, Tigard, and then last on our list, Lake Oswego. So Lake Oswego, probably by most measures, if you ask most people, one of the most, if not the most desirable places to live in Portland. The big downside, of course, is being desirable is going to be the cost. It's the most expensive. So it's very expensive. Like, what are we talking here? Like, costs are 2x, twice as much as some of these other areas. So it's going to be prohibitive for a lot of people. But if it's not, why is it so great? Well, there's a lot of things. The proximity, their location is probably, it might be the best. If you look at Lake Oswego on a map, they're probably as centrally located to everything as any of these other suburbs that we're talking about. And some of the things that you want to be centrally located towards is maybe Portland, maybe wine country, maybe you're heading south, maybe the Oregon coast to the west, maybe Mount Hood to the east. So there's a lot of things that attract people here to live here and to work here. And in general, Lake Oswego's location is probably going to be the best. The downtown is also really good. Like I mentioned, not all these suburbs have downtowns or kind of like a dedicated, like an old town, like an actual like downtown that that's like a dedicated downtown as opposed to like just a strip mall that's in the center of town somewhere. And it's probably one of the most, if not the most kind of vibrant downtowns, and that part of that is the proximity. You do get a little bit of traffic with people passing through, but really great restaurants, as you might imagine, in an area like that. Obviously, one of the, two high schools there, Lake Oswego and Lake Ridge High School, two of the top-rated high schools in the state, and their sports, like West Linn. Those two towns, as far as sports, oftentimes kind of going back and forth. Lake Oswego's probably responsible for as many, if not more, professional athletes that have come through Oregon and went on to play pro sports. And it's not anything that Lake Oswego's doing. It's that like when people move here that have kids that are really good at sports that can afford to, that's one place that they go. So, including former professional athletes, which there's a fair amount of that live in Lake Oswego. They have kids, their kids grow up in the Lake Oswego School District. So great schools, great sports, pretty much got everything that you want. As far as housing goes, not gonna find a ton of undeveloped land. So not a lot of new construction there. The new construction that you will find there is what you would expect in an area that's really expensive and affluent, which is tear downs. So tearing down that home that's 100 years old and building, something that's 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 square feet. You're gonna find a lot of big homes in Lake Oswego. As the name implies, there is a lake there. It is a reservoir, so it's a man-made lake. But that's always, attractive for people, whether you can afford to live on the lake or just you're taking a walk around the lake, eating at one of the restaurants that's by the lake or maybe has a lake view, which there's a handful of. The lake actually was part of an ongoing dispute. It was recently, I think, ruled by a judge that the public can actually access that lake. There's one place on the lake where the public can access it. Not going to be able to put a boat in. We're talking about like a kayak or something like that, a small craft, or just swimming. Not the best place to swim. Probably not the cleanest, quite frankly. But Lake Oswego residents, I think, maybe going back and forth on who should be able to access the lake. Before it was just Lake Oswego residents. So if you live in Lake Oswego, probably good for you. And if you don't, you want to access the lake, not so good. But now with the most recent ruling, you can access the lake, the public. But all in all, it's probably one of the nicer places in the Portland metropolitan area. Yeah. It's got some of the nicest houses, and that makes it one of the most, again, depends on who you ask, desirable places in the Portland metropolitan area.
Yeah, absolutely. And if any of these areas sound interesting and you want to learn more about them, if there are some areas that have already popped up on your radar, you want to learn more about them, whatever it may be, we're here to help. And if that's the case, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, or again, click the link down below in the description of the video, schedule a Zoom call with us. We can talk about your timeline, your budget, what areas sound interesting, and put together a game plan for you. So when the time comes, you can hit the ground running. And if this video was helpful, make sure to hit the like button. That helps us out a lot. And if you want to get more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel and tap the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video. As always, we really appreciate you watching. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.
Take care, everyone.